So let's switch back over here to our 1 gig IOTA, and we are going to look at starting our capture. So on my 1 gig, I'll come into my capture control, and I've got my interface right here. Now, when you first set up if you do a factory reset, you're not going to see this interface right here. What we're going to need to do is come up here to this drop down, drop that down, select the interface, and click the Add button. And once we do that, we're going to see that we have our interface right here. Now, I could come in and edit that interface. I can give it a name. And right here, we see this checkbox that says Keep Files. If that is unchecked, I am going to capture the traffic. I'm going to analyze the traffic. And once I get done analyzing the traffic, I throw the trace file away. If I check on Keep Files, then I will keep that trace file and I can go back and grab those packets. So this is where we need to decide. Do we want to keep all the data, or do we just want to analyze the conversations and be able to see what's going on with that traffic? But that's what our Keep Files gives us. Now I'm going to keep the files because I want to be able to get all the packets. I want to see what's going across the wire. Now here we have our DNS resolution. What the IOTA is doing is it is monitoring DNS queries as they're going across, and it is keeping track of what name came back for each IP address, or if we did a pointer record, or if we did an A record, what IP came back for what name. So it's going to correlate that information. Now, if I don't have the management port connected up, I'm using this in autonomous mode. It is going to base this DNS resolution on the DNS queries it sees go by. If the management port is connected, it will actively go out and resolve names and IPs to addresses. So if I have a MAC IP address, it can resolve it to a name. If I have a name resolved to an IP, it's going to go out and do those resolutions. So if we're connected to the network via the management port, it is actively resolving DNS as well as passively resolving DNS. So our indexing. This is writing the information to an Elasticsearch database. Here is an important concept when it comes to the IOTA. To ensure that we see no packet loss as we're going from one file to the next, what the IOTA does is it captures and writes to file. Now, after 30 seconds, it will close that file, or if the file gets to 4 gigabytes, it'll close that file and move to the next file. Keep capturing, move to the next file, move to the next file. After that 30 seconds, it will take that file and it will analyze it and put it into the Elasticsearch database. So we see a message down here at the bottom that says that files will be available only after the first 30 seconds of capture. So we're on our screen where we're showing the flows, we're showing the traffic. That is about 30 seconds behind what's actually happening on the wire, because we want to get those packets written to disk first. Then we're going to go in and analyze them. Then we're going to display it out there on the graph. So that's why when you hit start capture, if you don't see something immediately, don't panic. We want to wait about 30 seconds for that first file to get written. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I am going to hit start capture. So it is going to start capturing packets. Now, what I look for right here is written to file. I am going to go out and ensure that data is being written to a file. This is how I validate that I am successfully going in and capturing those packets and writing them to disk. Now I know that I've got data coming into my input port. It's being written to disk, and what we're going to see is after about 30 seconds, we're going to see files written increment to 1. And it's going to write that first file. It's going to analyze it. There we go. We got it written. It's going to analyze that, and now we can go in and start taking a look at that. Okay? So after you start a capture, always make sure that you come back in and check and make sure that that's being written to file. And then that way we know that we're set to go. So we've gotten quite a ways. We've gotten this hooked up, gotten our capture started, gotten our interface configured properly. So let's come up here to our home dashboard and start seeing what's going on. So this is our home dashboard. This is when we log in, this is where we start. And what we can do is the first thing we want to take a look at is our time frame. And there's a number of different ways that we can select the time frame. The easiest way is to come up here and click on one of our predefined time frames. I could say, you know what? Show me the last 5 minutes of traffic to go across the network. So what it's going to do is it's going to show me the last 5 minutes of traffic we've seen show up on our capture ports. And again, remember, we're about 30 seconds behind what's actually coming in, but it shows us our traffic, so we can see how much traffic's come through, packets, so we can see our packets going across here, and we see our addresses. We see our clients and our servers down here. It shows us for this time frame how much traffic have we captured, how many packets, and how many unique flows, as well as the various protocols that we've seen in there. Now, it could be that you're troubleshooting a problem where you need to go back to a log and find that particular time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over here to my 10 gig IOTA. And we're going to start our capture again. Here we go. This is where I need to add my interface. We're going to go ahead and start that 10 gig IOTA again. But in this case, I could come back, and I've been capturing for a while. I could come into the 10 gig IOTA and I could put in a date and time. So I could say custom time range. And I could go back in time. So I could say, you know what? I want to go back to June 10th. And I'm interested in June 10th. And I could put in a date and time and be able to grab that traffic for that time period and hit apply. Okay? I don't have traffic back that far. Now, the other way, we've got our predefined time range. We can choose that. The third way is to come in and select a time range with our mouse. So I can highlight that time and come in here, select that, and it's going to show me what happened during that time period. So if I see that little spike right there and I want to know who was talking during that time period, I could come in, highlight that, and it's going to show me who was talking. I could see who the top talkers are right here for that particular conversation. So this starts giving me an idea of what's going on. If I want to go back out, I can just come up here. I could say, hey, I want to go back out to 15 minutes. Somebody calls in and said, hey, what's been going on over the last week? I could say, show me the last 7 days. Here is one of the important things we want to remember. When we start going in and grabbing packets, we are going to select that traffic that we're going to filter from this time period. So if you choose 7 days, the IOTA needs to grind through 7 days worth of trace files to pull that information out. So it could take a while, but that gives you the ability to go back and set a filter and go back in and take a look at what happened over the last 7 days. So we could choose a more reasonable time frame right here. Click on that. Now, right now we are set to do a manual refresh on the dashboard. So when I come up and click on refresh right here, it's going to refresh. I can drop this down and I could set that to 5 seconds. So if I'm going to have this up on my screen and I want to keep an eye on what's going on with my network, I could come in here and I could set that refresh to 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, it's going to update that screen and I can see what's happening. So if somebody did a big file transfer and caused some issues on my network or something, I could come in here and take a look at that. So it shows me, for the last 5 minutes, we've seen about 39 meg go across the network. With our dashboards, we could come in, there's a little arrow next to that. We could do various things as far as our views, editing, etc. One of the easiest things we can do is come down here to export CSV. If I want to grab those servers right there and the amount of data that they've sent across, I could come in, click on that little down arrow, and I could export that CSV. So we're seeing a lot of information here. So the next thing that we may want to do is go in and filter down on that information. So let's take a look at dashboard filtering. What are some of the easy filters that we can create from our dashboard? One of the easiest filters that we can do is we can come in and we can hover over a device. I'm going to go to this screen, and as I go over each device, what you see is you're going to see a little magnifying glass show up. We've got a filter for value and an exclude, filter out value. So let's say I just wanted to see the information for this device right here. I can click on filter for value. What it does is it puts a filter up here at the top that has now been applied to my display. There are 3 different filters that we see up at the top. So I just want to touch on the importance and where each one of those fits in. And I'll give examples of each of these. But right here, we have our custom search. Our custom search is a display filter. The custom search affects the information that is displayed, but it does not affect the information that is downloaded when we download a PCAP file. So I could have a custom search that drills in on a very specific thing, and when I click on download PCAP, I get 40 megabytes worth of traffic. That's because my custom search allows me to change what's displayed here, but it does not impact the download PCAP. Our filter in the middle changes our display and changes the download PCAP. So if I download this right now, it will only download this information for this IP address. So that filter right there is a really good way to filter down on a specific device. Then we have our Berkeley packet filter window right here. This affects the download only. So I can come in here and put in a filter, and when I go to download, that filter will be applied as I'm downloading, but it does not affect the display. So depending on what we are trying to get out of here, we can put these various filters in. So in this case, I filtered on an IP address. So I'm sure you're thinking, well, Mike, what other filters are available? Well, if we come in here to our filters right here, and I click on this, this shows me all the different filters that are available. So I could come in, and one of the ones I really like is I can say L7 protocol name. So now I can filter on a protocol name. And what this does is this is looking for about 200 different protocols, and it's going to come in and identify those. So I could say, you know what, I'm interested in SSL Microsoft 365. So this isn't going just by port, but it's going by what server it's talking to. It's going by the characteristics of that traffic. So I could click on that, and we could open up our time window right here. And it's going to show us what traffic we've seen for SSL Office 365. So one of the things I really like about our filters in here is that we can come in and we can select that based on values that are shown in here. So for instance, if I was interested in my PPTP, let's see, am I getting PPTP in here? Yeah, we could say, ooh, MQTT. This is a messaging server. And so now what we see is we see some devices using MQTT. These are the various Wi-Fi outlets I have here in the office. They're going out and communicating with the servers. Now, this is a great time to go in and take a look at another dashboard. Now, when we switch dashboards, there's 2 different ways we can do it. One is, I could come over here to my dashboards and click on Manage and jump to a dashboard. But you know what that's going to do? That's going to wipe out this filter up here. So the best way to switch dashboards and not lose this filter that we've created is to come over here to Go To, and then we can go to our dashboard from here. So when I do that, it retains the filters that I put in. So what we find is I still have my MQTT server or filter. So over here, I can see my server locations. So now it starts showing me where those servers are. So if I want to know who I'm talking to and where they're located, this has a geo IP database that's stored on the IOTA. It doesn't need to go out to the internet to get this information. It's going to come back and show us where those IP addresses show up in the geo IP database. So now I can get an idea of where the clients and the servers are. Okay. I could go back. I could come up here and I could say go to. I could come back to my home screen. Let's see. There we go. Come back to my home screen. I haven't lost the filter. Now let's say that that's not enough. I want to get further into MQTT. I could come down here and I could select a device. I could say filter on this value. Now it does an AND. Now, right now, the only choice we have here is AND, but we can AND these filters together to keep drilling further and further in. Here is one of the big concepts with the IOTA that I want you to see, and that is, this isn't just writing to disk and we download all the traffic. We are doing a tremendous amount of analysis right here using these dashboards to zero in on those packets that we're interested in. So now I could come in and I could download that traffic. I could either say download PCAP, or I could click on this host right here. What it's going to do is it's going to download that traffic to my disk, and I could go in and open that up with my protocol analyzer. So I've grabbed that traffic out, and that traffic could have been from weeks ago, because this gives me the ability to go back in time and see what's going on. Okay. So many different ways to create a filter. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to click on Clear Filters. I clear all that out. We're going to take a look at the last 30 minutes. So my search window up here. My search window gives me a way that I could come in and I could say, I want to look for that SSL.Facebook. Give that a try. Oh, there we go. So I put in the protocol name I'm looking for, and it puts that in. I could put in an IP address, 50. Or let's put in 75.75.75.75, the Comcast DNS server. So I can throw that in there. The custom search provides a very easy way for me to change my display. Now, this does not affect my downloaded packets, but it does change my display and allow me to quickly zoom in and see what's going on in here. We can even come in and take our filters, and I could say IP dest : 50.1 or 94.62.33 and L4 dest port : 23. So what does that give me? That gives me everybody that's trying to telnet into my network. So now I'm going to hit enter so I can see those devices that have tried telnetting into my network. Now this allows me to put an OR up here so I can do a little ORing. Now, like I showed you before, we can jump to another dashboard using GoTo and we don't lose that filter. So now I say go to hosts. Still has my filter up there, but now what it's doing is it's going to show me where those clients are. So now if I drill in here, I can see that I've got a client coming in from down here. I could zoom out. We've got some clients coming in from over here, right there. So we can see where those clients are coming from. Okay. So now, using our custom filters and using our other dashboards, we can start getting an idea of what's going on. So I can go back out to my home dashboard. We can really start getting in and doing some troubleshooting if we use filters like retransmissions. So I can say retrans. I could say client retransmissions. I could say greater than. And we could say 5. So this is going to show me all those connections where I saw client retransmissions greater than 5. So now I could start seeing maybe where I'm seeing packet loss occurring in here. I could drop that down. We could say, how about, whoa, client transmissions greater than 158. So now we could really start getting an idea of where we have some issues out there, what's going on. So there's a whole slew of dashboards in here. In fact, if we come over, we take a look at our dashboards. We can come in, I can click on my dashboards, I go to manage. And from here, we can come in here and manage our dashboards. We can create playlists that will go through the dashboards. We can create new dashboards. We can import dashboards that have been given to us. Now, if creating a dashboard's outside the scope of this training right now, but let's say that I created a dashboard, I could send you that dashboard and you could import it and use it on your IOTA. Now, one of the questions that I know came in was around importing a PCAP file. So let's go in and let's take a look at how we can come in here and import a PCAP. So I've captured traffic elsewhere on my network. I want to take advantage of the power of the IOTA to analyze that traffic. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that packet capture that we captured at another time on another device and bring that into the IOTA. So the first thing I'm going to do when I go to bring in a capture is I'm going to come into capture control. And right now we can't capture live and import a trace file at the same time. So what I'm going to do is come in and stop my capture. Then I'm going to come in and I am going to import my PCAP file. One of the things I always do when I import my PCAP file is I give it a different session keyword. This can be used as a filter to quickly filter down on just that traffic. So I'm going to call this, we'll call it my trace 1. Okay. And I'm going to select a file. So I'll come out here and I'm going to grab this trace file right here. And I am going to start analysis. So our analysis, it's going through and analyzing that trace file. It's grabbing all those flows and it's bringing that into the IOTA. Now, I could come back out to my capture control. I could start my live capture. So now I'm capturing. We're going to come back out to our home dashboard. So now I want to find that traffic I just imported. So the easiest way is I'm going to add a filter. I'm going to say session keyword. I'm going to say my trace 1. Now we don't see it because here's the thing. The IOTA uses the timestamps when the trace was captured. So that trace wasn't captured in the last 3 hours. So what I can do is say, show me the last 7 days. Last 30 days. Oh, there it is. There's our capture. So now I can start zooming in on that time frame when that trace was captured. And now I can use all of my different dashboards to analyze that. So if I come in based on this session keyword, I could say go to, and I could say I want to see my TCP troubleshooting. So it's going to start showing me how many ACKs I have, fins, what's going on in there. I could take a look at what my round trip times are. I could look for things like server congestion. So this allows me to use the IOTA to analyze that trace file. That trace file could have been captured on a router, on a switch. Well, not necessarily on a switch. I've got VoIP phones that have the ability to do a packet capture. So I could use those to capture the packets and take a look. So this training today intended to get you started with the IOTA. So we looked at how do we connect it into our network? How do we connect to the IOTA? How do we log in? How do we set up our capture and get that capture going? How do we start coming in and taking a look at our dashboards, grabbing those trace files? So I can use my download PCAP, or I can come in and I can filter on something. So notice that even once we start drilling down in here, we could start taking a look at our filter. So we could say, we've got this device right there, server IP. Okay, we could see, where do we see a lot of retransmissions? This device right there, 40% retransmissions, that's crazy. So I could click on that device. I could click on filter right there. And now I'm filtering down on that device. So we could then come in, I could say download PCAP. It downloads that trace. Now I could come in, start analyzing the trace, trying to get an idea of why am I seeing those retransmissions. So we have a number of troubleshooting dashboards. The great thing with the IOTA, as new versions come out, we can see new dashboards come out, new analysis being performed, new protocols being analyzed. So it is constantly being updated with new features.